First of all, to the audience for tomorrow, we don't want anybody to think it is anti-Semite or quote-unquote, haters of this or that. Would you explain about your background first?
My grandfather was Jewish on my mother's side, and this really has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's a historical study of what happened in the Armenian Genocide, and it simply addresses facts.
And once we clear that up, you have your facts on a historic basis. Could you elaborate, how did you come on those facts, first of all?
Well, the principal evidence that we have are reports from the London Times. The Vienna correspondent of the London Times initiated a series of correspondence that took place in 1911, where he tried to wake up the Jews of England to the fact that Jews in the Ottoman Empire were slaughtering Christians. And he was afraid that there would be a backlash against all Jews if Jews in the Western world were not to condemn these atrocities. And we also have evidence, very important evidence, from the British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, Gerard Lothar. And he wrote several reports to the British Foreign Office where he pointed out the fact that the Young Turk Revolution was not so much a Turkish revolution as a Jewish takeover from a certain group of Jews who were centered in Salonika, Greece.
And based on those facts, you said you have some facts from London Times. Could you elaborate on Sabbatai Zevi a little bit? What were their plans and Atatürk in connection of?
Sabbatai Zevi was a false Jewish messiah who in 1666 declared that he was the Messiah of the Jews. And he garnered a large following among the Jews, and he wanted to restore the Jews to Palestine from all over Europe. The Sultan of Turkey captured Sabbatai Zevi and demanded that he either convert to Islam or be killed. So he converted to Islam, but it wasn't a genuine conversion. It was a conversion under coercion. And many of his followers also pretended to convert to the Muslim faith. And Sabbatai Zevi was worshipped as if he were God and as if he were Jesus Christ. His soul is believed by the followers of Sabbatai Zevi to have passed on to another man named Baruchia Russo. Baruchia Russo became the next Jewish Messiah, and he established a cult in Salonika of Jews who would pretend to be Muslims, but they only pretended to be Muslims so that they could gain positions of power in the Ottoman Empire and so that they could destroy the Muslim faith and ultimately replace it with Judaism. And they always practiced Judaism in secret. This group that formed in Salonika, this cult of secret Jews, they're called crypto Jews or Dernmei, established a plan on how to overthrow the Turkish Empire and destroy it. And they wanted to destroy the Turkish Empire because the Turkish Empire controlled Palestine. And the only way that they could gain Palestine as a Jewish colony was to destroy the Turkish Empire. And ultimately their plans manifested themselves in the Young Turk Revolution. And that's why the ambassador for the British Empire to the Ottoman Empire declared that this was not a Turkish revolution, it was in fact a Jewish takeover, because that's exactly what it was.
And what was the connection of, I believe you have some documentation of connection of Atatürk in relations with them?
Yes, there was an article in the Jewish Forward newspaper where a correspondent reported that Atatürk had himself said that he was a direct descendant of Sabbatai Zevi, which is very significant because this Sabbatai Zevi was believed to be the Messiah of the Jews, the King of the Jews, the equivalent of Jesus Christ in more modern times. So it's as if he said he were a descendant of Jesus Christ. And Atatürk was put into power, obviously, because he had this type of a lineage. And we know from several sources that he was among the Dernmei Turks, among this cult of secret Jews who were determined to destroy the Turkish Empire. And he was very clever. He destroyed the Turkish Empire by making the Turks have nationalistic pride. So Turkey as a nation shrunk down from Turkey as an empire. So he tricked the Turks into destroying their own empire by encouraging them to be nationalistic.
And I'm sure you've researched some political views of today's term, what's going on with Kurdistan.
Yes. The Mossad, we know from the BBC that the Mossad is training the Kurds in the PKK on how to attack the Turkish government and also on how to provoke conflicts within Iraq. Iraq is divided between three primary groups: the Kurds, the Sunni Muslims, and the Shia Muslims. The Sunni Muslims have no access to oil, but the Kurds and the Shia have access to oil. The Kurds, like the Armenians, have always wanted to reconstitute an ancient Kurdish nation. And these groups are playing upon that desire to create a nation to get these people to instigate a war in Iraq and a war with Turkey. The Kurds are again being used to instigate a war in the region.
Just like they were used to massacre the Armenians.
Precisely. They were also promised that if they massacred the Armenians,
they will have a greater Kurdistan.
That the First World War would be fought because Christians would be outraged that Muslims had attacked and killed Christians in the Ottoman Empire. That would bring the wrath of Western Christians, European Christians and Americans against the Turkish Empire, and they would destroy it. Once it was destroyed, it could be partitioned into smaller nations, and those nations would include a Jewish Palestine, an Armenia, and a Kurdistan.
What kind of relation does Freemasonry play in all these historical facts?
Both the London Times correspondent and Sir Gerard Lothar, who was ambassador from Britain to the Turkish Empire, stated that Emmanuel Carasso had started a Masonic lodge in Salonika called the Macedonia Resorta Masonic Lodge, and he was the Grand Master of that lodge. And in that lodge, the Committee of Union and Progress created their plans for overthrowing the Sultan. And this was really the secret government behind the government of the Young Turks. It was the Committee of Union